Hello there, boys and girls. This is New Order again. Seven Deadly Sins. Today we are playing Pro Elves. We're playing Boxwine's Pro Elves.
We're playing rookie pro elves.
But we are rookie necromantics, so.
There is a league's worth of difference between the two.
So, last game, I guess this is going to be sort of a night and day difference. And you'll note that I'm going to go ahead and leave a couple of these kickoff setup times in this case, to point out that you probably saw the screen sort of started to change color. That's because there's weather in this game, if you didn't notice. You probably didn't notice from the last match because it never came into effect, because it was just normal, fine weather. But occasionally, sort of different weather events happen. In this case, it is sweltering heat. So it gets really hot, the screen sort of changes a little red, and from now on, every time that we go to kick off the ball, you basically roll dice for every single one of your players, and occasionally some of them will just be overcome by the heat, have a bout of the vapors, and fall over.
Oh lordy!
Yeah, so it's not going to come into effect now, but it'll definitely come into effect later.
I also would like to point out, just because we didn't watch any of the setups last time, the way that Boxwine is setting up his elves. This is pretty much one of the standard defenses of Blood Bowl.
Yep.
That basically the way it goes is that punching any one player doesn't really make it that easy to run past. You'll see that the yellow areas, the tackle zones, the places you can't move through without having to dodge, they're pretty much like clenched tight. So there's zero chance of us really breaking through his lines and getting our men all up in there. So it's pretty standard. You'll see this probably a lot throughout the LP.
I am choosing to set up offensively in the arrow, and that's where you point your players at the place that you want to go, and I want to go towards the end zone.
Like last time, he got perfect defense, which means that the cute arrow, which was used to punch a whole bunch of people, is actually probably going to punch approximately 0 people. Though one of the upsides is that the way he's positioned his players, he can't actually prevent punches from occurring. And so you'll notice that Flesh Prince is guaranteed to get a 2DB on Towel.
As is Beef Slab, because I'm gonna go get up in his stuff.
Oh yeah, you gotta move players around for Beef Slab.
Like I was saying, between last video and this video is gonna sort of be a night and day difference. It's also gonna show off the versatility of Necros, because when we played against Flair and his Khemri, he was playing a little goofy. He was messing around. Boxwine's gonna be playing a little more seriously, but Flair Knight and the Khemri, they were all about punching. And if you want to play Khemri, you have to punch a lot. Where elves are an agility team. You'll note every single one of their players has agility 4, and that makes them all huge pains in the ass. But they're not going to want to get punched, and I'm going to want to try to punch them a lot. So that the versatility comes in, where I am a team who, when I play against teams that punch a lot, I try to out-agility them, and when I am playing against teams who are high agility, like the elves, I want to try to out-punch them. And I'm going to be throwing a lot of punches hot and heavy, trying to score some casualties here.
Yeah. One of the things about elves in general, and pro elves in particular, we use block. Block is cool.
Yep, block's a great skill.
Block is the skill.
These pro elves only have 2 players with block. They are blitzers. They also come with a very annoying skill that we'll get very familiar with called sidestep. That'll come into effect plenty later in the match.
The other thing about elves, and just elves in general, is that they tend to have high movement, or at least average movement, and they all have high agility, AG4. But to make up for it, they are wet paper towels. If you punch them, they tend to break. They all have armor 7, which means that when they're knocked down, they have... AB7 is about average, as explained in New Order's posts, especially...
My hyper post that I made.
The big post. But it still means that you get
Here I'm going to... I choose to not pick up the ball. Now, against elves, it's very dangerous to let the ball sit on the ground, because them being agility 4 means they're that much better at running over and scooping up the ball, and then just dodging away from me like they don't even care. In this case, I'm okay with not using my team reroll, because I might need that later, and letting the ball hit the ground, because as you can see, I have plenty of players. He can't even physically reach the ball, or even get close to even pressure it, so I'm just going to let the ball sit on the ground. I feel like this decision sort of bites me in the ass later, and you'll see why. But if I had not let it hit the ground, I would have been able to set up a little bit better. And if you're playing against elves, this is sort of maybe the more experienced players will see this as sort of a nightmare scenario. Because if I give them a bunch of room on the pitch to just run around and spread out, it's going to be impossible to track them down and keep them contained a little bit.
Yeah, it's not great. And the other problem is that you see that there's a lot of players that are tied up on the line of scrimmage here, and there are relatively few players that are back, and this is probably going to be a problem shortly because he's going to run a lot of elves around into this big open area. You see that Hairband's already heading on over there. So he's going to have a lot of players that are past the line of scrimmage and kind of cutting New Order's forces in half, and unfortunately there aren't enough by the ball. So he's pretty much locked out of caging right now because there's not enough players to form a cage, and his players are actually really scattered. So he's outnumbered where the ball is, and this is bad. This is
not
very, very
this
bad.
is not an impossible situation, but this is still a salvageable situation. The problem is that all my guys over there on the line of scrimmage, they're all really slow players, and all of my positional players, the faster players, are sort of where they already need to be.
The other thing is that now he absolutely positively must pick up the ball here, because if he fails to pick up the ball, he's probably screwed.
I already have elves in my face. If I do not pick up the ball here, it is trivial for them to score. You'll also see that his player Towel, just a normal lineman, chose to dodge away from my Flesh Golem rather than stand there and take the hit. Because they're agility 4, that means that they're really good at dodging, and in almost every case you'll want to try to dodge away from players rather than stand there and take one on the chin. Which is something that,
elves tend to have really bad armor, which means that they don't want to be punched. But they also have high agility, which means that they don't have to get punched because they can just kind of stand where they need to. However, as you see there, armor break and that is an exact armor break. He rolls an 8, which is just enough to get the stun. It means that that's one less player that is actually actively around next turn to cause problems. You'll also see that he's stacking up 2 players on each side of the elves. This means that the elves have to dodge twice when it's time for them to get moving, and this just mainly serves to complicate things for the elves. It's really one of the few ways to even pretend that you can lock them down. You really can't lock them down. It's not how that works. They're elves.
Luckily, picking up the ball was no problem, and yeah, I'm definitely going to. Frankly, I have the players, and I need to sort of get them in a better position. And since I can only blitz once a turn, I'm just going to go ahead and choose to essentially sandwich these players. So instead of just simply dodging away, they have to dodge through some tackle zones, making their life a little bit harder. Again, I'm probably not going to stop. If he really wants to get out of there, he can. The problem is I'm going to try to make him use up his team rerolls so that later in the match, later in this half, when he needs them, they won't be there because he was trying to dodge through a billion tackle zones.
One of the keys to really defending against elves is to make it so that they have to get punched in order to threaten the ball, because you really, really, really need to take as many elves off the pitch as possible in order to defend effectively, because otherwise they'll just run all over the place and be big old jerks. He's actually stacking a whole lot of players up right there, which is kind of interesting.
He has a plan.
Oh.
I guess we'll say it like that. He has a plan.
Oh, I know what he's going to do.
Mm-hmm. You can see that in that giant mess of players, there is one player who has not moved. There are 2 players. There is Hairband and there is Baseball Cap. They're the players that I had sandwiched previously. And like I said, if he really wants to get out of those sandwiches, he can.
Also note that unlike our last competitor, he's doing the relatively safe things first. The dodges are very unsafe, and even though it seems like with elves being so frail, the first thing you want to do is get them out of harm's way, they're just as likely to fall over and get injured themselves if they try to dodge out. So you want to do all the safe things first and then save the dangerous stuff like dodges for last.
Yep. Okay, so here we go. This is again a player with block. So he's not going to choose to go totally insane and just try to get up on me, but he is instead going to use his blitz before he even starts moving, which is totally a viable option, and then that lets him just dodge straight through, run around, and get up on me and hassle me.
Yeah, an important thing to note is that even though blitzes are mainly used to block with a player after you move, it's also extremely important to note that blitzes can be used to move a player after you block. So even though he could have made that block without moving, he is now able to... Oh, goodness. So, first blood goes to the Pro Elves, which is bad. It's especially with this sweltering heat, because that's going to cause problems, and he'll need all the people he can get. Nothing like... If it's hard to defend against elves when you've got a full team, and it's even hard to defend against elves when you've got them outnumbered, it is a nightmare to defend against elves when they outnumber you.
Things are already looking extremely hairy as is. I'm boxed up, I'm caged up a little bit better, but I'm still not very happy with this. And losing one player, especially against elves in general, me being this low of team value, is kind of scary. Walking into this match, I was not feeling super hot about my odds to win this thing, but like the famous saying goes, never tell me what the odds are. I believe that's how it goes, correct?
I don't actually know.
So now you would think it would be very trivial for me to just run over here and blitz baseball cap off my player and then keep going. The problem being, baseball cap is an elf blitzer, and elf blitzers get a skill called sidestep. So normally, like in this case, when I go to, well, I'm going to block this guy, but normally when you go to punch the guy, you know how you just punch him either of the three directions? He has sidestep, so that means that he gets to, rather than get pushed one of the three directions, he gets to choose any direction in a circle, in the box around him. He can choose to step into any of those squares, meaning I can't just blitz straight into him because he can just choose to keep standing next to my ball carrier by sidestepping right to the side of him rather than getting knocked away. So I'm going to have to go ahead and make this dodge here. It's an agility 3 roll, but I have the dodge reroll. So it's a little dicey, but it's basically what I have to do at this point.
There's not really that many options.
No.
But first we're going to throw some blocks, because why not? Here you'll get to see sidestep in action.
Oh yeah, so here we go. So because the player gets to choose, and so he's going to choose to sidestep a little bit closer to the action and not get boxed to my players.
That actually may have been a questionable block to make, and that didn't work.
Okay, so the score is now 1-0 in favor of the elves. No, I'm kidding. They haven't scored yet, but
no, the score is 1-0 in favor. We all know. We all know how this is going to go.
Yeah. So last game, Khemri ball handling meant that we weren't really sure whether or not the ball was going to get picked up. But this is elves, so elves pick up the ball when they want to, and if they don't pick up the ball, it's because they chose not to for whatever reason. It's
elves
not because
are fickle beings. Unpredictable at best, obnoxious at worst.
So my plan going into this match, receiving the kickoff, was to cage up my player, slowly move down the pitch, punch as many elves as I can, try to knock a bunch of his players out, and then eventually go score towards the end of the half. The exact opposite of that happened. My players got punched more. Not punched more, my players got hurt more. I definitely threw more punches than the elves, but my players suffered more in the form of a knockout. The ball flew out of my hands almost instantly. The ball was then knocked out of my hands on a failed dodge, and now the elves are running straight into the end zone, and they are he's going to think about it for a second. He's just going to go ahead and walk it in. It is now 1-0 Pro Elves.
Mad props to Boxwine. He did not need to make that roll, but he didn't stall, and I appreciate that.
He could have totally hung out. He could have totally hung out for a turn, but it would have been kind of boring.
Now, this is really bad that our zombie stayed asleep. That's not great.
However, check the dice log.
Oh, so you can see, holy crap!
Now you'll remember sweltering heat. If you every player rolls a d6, and if you roll a 1, you get sweaty and you get knocked out. He had 3 players that succumbed to sweltering heat, so that means he now has 8 players. I had no players succumb to sweltering heat, so it is now 10 versus 8, and I have a whole
that
4
is
turns,
including Comb, a blitzer.
Yeah.
So he's down a blitzer, and that's really, really bad because one of the big selling points of Pro Elves is that they have a bunch of players that are awesome right out of the box. They're immediately awesome. Blitzers are the most awesome. Like, for their team value, I don't think it's possible to find a better player at that, like, just right out of the box than...
Yeah, cost for value, they're insane.
They're also the only AV8 players on the team, which makes them extremely valuable because they're way better to get mixed up in the action. So being down, and they also have block. So they're one of the two. He's one of the 2 players on the team with block, and one of the 2 players on the team with AV8. So being out the blitzer is bad.
Blitzers are essentially your elf defense, because you can stand a blitzer next to a guy, and he's, especially this early on, he's probably not going to. He's probably just going to continue to be annoying and get in your way.
This time we got to pick up the ball for free.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the kickoff event was high kick. I can't remember if this has happened before. Either way, the kickoff event was high kick. You get to choose one of your players to stand under the ball. It's not a guarantee. They still have to roll dice to catch it. In fact, it's harder to catch the ball in this case than it is to simply pick it up or to catch it on like a handoff or a pass. Either way, it bounces straight into my hands, and I now have the ball on a player who has dodge. And he only has one player who has block, which means if he wants to try to come punch my ball carrier, not only is he going to have to get to him because I have a player advantage, but it's going to be a little bit harder.
The other really nice thing about high kick is that not only do you get a free pickup attempt, but also, even if it scatters, it's guaranteed to be in one of his tackle zones. Aw, 4 block dice, no pows.
And it obviously lets me get a little bit closer to the ball, whereas if the high kick had not happened, I would have to run up to it. So I get to use my full movement this turn to run up to the line of scrimmage and box up a little bit.
So I'd like to say that this has been actually a pretty valuable punching round. He's got a couple players down, one is stunned, and more notably, he gets to set up pretty much a full cage. It's not actually a full cage, but it's good enough for our purposes.
So rather than building a death cage and putting people all over the place, I'm gonna sort of leave my cage a little bit open in that area and choose to move that zombie where he is there. Again, trying to draw out those team rerolls if he wants to try to make some dubious decisions.
It's also pretty unlikely that he'll be able to attack the cage from that angle, considering where Beef Slab and Frankencastle are, and the fact that there are only 3 players over there that are standing, so he really doesn't have that many options in terms of attacking from that angle. A really important part of defending in Blood Bowl is knowing where the potential attack angles are, and defending or protecting the ball with as few players as possible to keep the rest up and active and distracting their players.
Yeah, so, if he wants, if he's not going to do it because he's a better player, but if he wants to do it, he totally can. Now, you'll notice there, he chose to push me away, and he did not choose to follow up. Do you see Hairband over on the left? So here he's going to, he's going to roll a skull and then a skull. He was going to blitz me, presumably knock down my zombie, and then go try to get up in my stuff. But you'll see that he pushed McGruff away and did not choose to follow him up, so McGruff is totally unmarked.
It's the frenzy. I see it coming.
I see a catcher who is two squares away from the sidelines, and I see a player who can throw blocks and push players 2 squares through the sidelines.
At the very least, we're being smart and moving other players beforehand. Some people, I'm not going to name names, but they might be me. They very well may be me, and they would just go and frenzy the dude, because that's what is awesome. If you own a player with Frenzy and you are not surfing as often as possible, you are doing the world a great disservice.
Right. Yeah, and it wouldn't be a fun video if I wasn't surfing at least one guy.
If you can surf and you don't, then you should probably not play Blood Bowl, because it's clearly not the game for you.
So we have a nice little gap in his defense and his tackle zones here. I can slip my cage all the way through, and I'm gonna go and knock out one of his catchers who. Although they're not blitzers, the elf blitzers are obviously great, but catchers are also super, super useful.
They're ridiculous.
They are as fast as my werewolf, and and also I'm in a very bad spot to get counter surfed. So if he wanted to, and I'm sure he would want to, because I know Boxwine a little bit, I'm sure he would want to try to surf me in advance. So I'm gonna go ahead and use a going for it to shield myself. So now if he wants to try to surf me, it's gonna be it's still possible.
It's just
because
hard.
of how. Yeah, because of how the pushing mechanics work.
I probably would have made a couple different moves. I probably would have. Why did you reroll that?
Again, you'll notice it's turn 5, and I have 3 rerolls left. So
okay. Well, if you have 0 rerolls on turn 8 and you have to reroll something, I'm gonna laugh at you really hard.
Maybe I can't. I think that might happen. I don't think so.
Anyway, as I was saying earlier, I probably would have moved Dr. White a square over so that Gel, because right now Gel can kind of run around and mark your guy and just make you roll more dice.
Yep.
And I probably would have moved the werewolf up.
That sound, by the way, that was
no.
him failing a dodge, which is quite rare for elves.
He failed the dodge, which made him unable to fail to succeed later.
Yep.
That was a bummer.
And he is now out of team rolls as well.
I probably would have made more dodges to try and get a 2 DB on the ghoul, but then again, it wouldn't have mattered anyway with those dice.
Now, the boring way to play this, or rather, I guess, the safer way to play this would just be to go ahead and score. But I don't want to score, I want to punch guys. So I'm going to open up the cage, which, it always works out fine. You can see I can just run straight into the end zone and score. As long as I don't do something dumb and force myself to turn over here, I'm looking at an easy score.
But it's really not smart to score right now because it leaves elves with 3 turns, and it also gives him another roll on the sweltering heat.
See, the thing is, I like surfing, and I saw an opportunity to do that.
Oh
that
my
is 4
God.
squares away.
Are you really gonna do a 4
and I saw,
Oh my God!
I saw an opportunity and I took advantage of it. I had to use a reroll.
Worth re-rolling
That's
for.
fine. No big deal.
If anyone says that is not worth re-rolling for, I suggest you rethink their friendship.
And that was totally unnecessary, but I score a knockout.
Do it.
I can't complain about
That's-
that. Oh, and you know
you
what?
have
Let's
a
just throw in
strange definition of unnecessary.
Let's just throw in another block. It's a 2 DB, no big deal.
Oh, we're gonna fail that.
Oh.
Okay, this is. Okay, that.
This is fun. This is exciting.
You should have run
I'm totally
your fucking
exposed.
guy down.
I'm not fully exposed. Well, I wanted to score this turn. I don't want to stand next to the end zone and just wait. That's boring. I am sort of exposed, but not fully
No, it's
exposed.
not boring. Punching elves because you're in the perfect position to punch elves a lot.
Yeah, but I want to score also.
I
don't want to surf
really,
more guys.
Like I know I'm anti-stalling, but I am more pro elf punching than I am anti-stalling. That's all
But you see Moose there? My immediate thought was, I bet I could surf that guy. He's only 5 scores away. Look I have the perfect.
You
I have an
actually
assembly
could.
line.
That's an easy surf.
No. Yeah. I have an assembly line of surfing. I'm ready to go.
But the problem is that the ball is in like super duper danger right now. It's in like stranger danger.
No, it's fine. He has like 6 guys there. I count like 6 guys. I've been surfing. The heat has been knocking out a bunch of guys. But he has Glue, who was still laying right there on the ground.
But this is counter not good. This is like double bonus not good. Oh.
Luckily, he fails the and he has catch,
He
so that
snaked
makes
it. Look at the dice.
Yeah.
But then he picks it up again and he dodges because he's elves. Welcome to AG4.
Now he has the ball, staring down the barrel of a lot of necromantics.
A lot of very angry necromantics that can and will punch him a lot.
I bet I could surf that guy.
Surfing the
No,
ball
I
carrier
can't.
is always questionable because when the ball goes out of bounds, it gets thrown back in. And it's really weird the way it gets thrown back in. It rolls a die to see which direction it goes. And then they roll 2 more dice to see how far it goes. So the ball could end up anywhere in a giant area. And that means that usually it ends up like next to elves, and then they run it in for 2-turn touchdown, and there's nothing you can do about it. So you want things to be as predictable as possible, but the surf is out of the question. And now we've got like
Things
a
aren't looking
pretty
great.
good cage for the for the.
And I don't have a lot of players over on the right, and he is way faster than I am. So this could get out of hand fast.
He's got 2 more turns to. Except it's pretty hard for him to score here because his players are so far away from the end zone that he would have to like super mega going for it, especially with Moose knocked down. It's actually really, really hard for him to score right now, despite all the elf hype. And surfing that catcher is also a huge part of it because the 8 movement on the catcher would have made this actually kind of trivial.
But the problem in this case is that it's really hard for me to get the ball back now. So I was trying to work out a scenario where the frenzy would work in such a way that if I didn't knock him down on the first punch, I would be able to use an assist from one of those two whites, Dr. White and White Power. But it's just that's too much dice to reasonably do to make things a little bit safer. So I'm going to go for the, I guess, not as safe but still equally valid strategy of just using Santos Van Hammerstein to at least get one 2DB.
2DB into 1DB. Do it to it.
It's fine. Don't worry. See?
It is absolutely fine.
And he's stunned.
Oh, baby!
That
and
makes
then
life
you
really
made
nice.
it going for it.
It's fine. I have rerolls.
So, Blow Dryer is pretty much immobile. That's actually not true. He's an elf. But let's just say he is.
I have him pretty well locked down, and I have, you'll see White Power. Oh, I just noticed there's a third power. There's Dr. White, White Power, and Max Power. They're a little triangle there.
They're a power metal band.
Mm-hmm. So he's going to dodge, instead of dodging through a tackle zone, he's going to dodge out of one and then walk back into one. It just makes the dice easier, that little maneuver he did. But he now has the ball, and he's going to do the tried and true elf strategy. We call it the punt, but in Blood Bowl, so you can pass the ball, but you don't necessarily have to pass the ball to a player.
And so you can just pass the ball way far down the field, and you don't actually have to succeed the pass. You don't need the pass to land where you throw it. You just need the pass to go as far away from you as possible. In this case, he throws it there. That's a shorter punt than he could have done, but it's more reliable because the longer the pass, the more likely you are to fumble it. That's not good.
All of my slow, not agile players are near the ball, and my fast players, although they are very fast, they are far away from the ball.
And it's turn 8, so it's go time. He has to take the ball and put it in the end zone, or it's all over.
I'm going to choose not to punch Baseball Cat because he had sidestep, so if I don't knock him down, he can just stand next to the ball and make things even harder.
And he has block, which means that it's hard to knock him down.
So that pass was pretty cool. That elf pass, that was all right. But he didn't even throw the ball at anybody. I bet I can do better.
Let's do the dog pass.
I bet I can pass.
Are we doing the dog pass?
Yes, we are. Now, keep this in mind for the rest of the match, but the dog has 3 star player points from scoring a touchdown in the first match. You need 6 to level up. Block is cool. You need 6 to level up. He has 3. You get 1 from throwing a pass, and you get 2 from scoring casualties. So, if he can complete this pass, he only needs a casualty, or I guess an MVP, or another touchdown to level up. And that's what we want to do. More than anything else, we want to get some level up. So let's try to make a pass. And not only score, but get McGruff that much closer to victory.
This is what we call a low percentage play.
Low percentage, schmo percentage. Need to use the reroll, but it's not a problem.
Yeah. So this is how Blood Bowl works. All things are possible through dice, and you see that as Nordor points out, Necromantic are just as capable of elfing as elves. In fact, more capable. This is better passing than we've seen throughout the entire LP. We're probably going to skip this. Ooh, the Sweltering Heat went away.
You will see that there was one of the kickoff events changes the weather in the middle of the match. So in this case, Sweltering Heat goes away, and it is replaced by nice, sunny. Is it just called? It's called very nice. Nice.
It's nice weather.
It's nice. That's nice weather.
It's nice.
And now you get to see what the actual pitch looks like. I kind of like this pitch, but it looked kind of gross when it was all red.
Yeah. That's one of the things that's unfortunate about the way that that Blood Bowl's weather effects look, at least the Cyanide version, is that God, it looks ugly at times, especially Sweltering Heat, because it basically turns the pitch into Fallout New Vegas.
Yeah. So you'll actually, this is sort of fitting that this happened because there was if you remember from the thread, there was a giant derail about scoring 0-turn touchdowns or 1-turn touchdowns. And that is the concept of being able to do a bunch of pushes in such a way that your player gets close enough past down the line of scrimmage that you can run straight into the end zone in 1 turn. It's very, very hard. But in this case, you'll remember he has players who have sidestep. So rather than just get pushed around based on the whims of the push mechanics, he can choose to advance every single time closer to the end zone. So that's what he's going to try to do, is shove these players around in such a way that he can throw blocks.
He's actually getting really unlucky right now because he's knocking players down, and you really, really don't want to knock players down when you're going for the one-turn touchdown.
This is basically the only time that you don't want to knock players down. But unfortunately, he had to use so many of his players, that he can't really get in a good position to knock his players out of the way. And that was the half, so it's 1-1. Elves are going to be receiving the ball in the second half. So we'll see you guys next time.